When you picture a Roman gladiator, a legend of the Colosseum, what do you see? Probably a warrior sculpted from marble, right? A physique forged on endless banquets of roasted meat, a primal diet for a savage job. But what if that popular image was wrong? The surprising truth, written in their very bones, is that the Roman Empire's deadliest fighters were fueled by something far more humble. They didn't follow a diet we'd recognize today. In fact, they were nicknamed the Barley Men. And the story of what they really ate isn't just a historical anecdote, it's a case study in specialized sports nutrition. The dietary secrets of these ancient warriors reveal the stark difference between eating for modern aesthetics and eating for ancient survival. And what science has uncovered offers a stunning look at what it took to fuel a champion. The life of a gladiator was a relentless physical grind. This wasn't a one-hour gym session followed by a shake. It was hours upon hours, every single day, of mastering weapons and practicing combat, all leading to life-or-death battles. Their biggest nutritional challenge wasn't a lack of protein by modern standards, but a desperate need for endurance. They needed a fuel that delivered sustained, slow-burning energy, so they wouldn't gas out in the arena. The solution? A food so common, it's often overlooked: barley. Ancient writers, such as Pliny the Elder, didn't call them meat men, but rather hordearii, literally the barley eaters. This wasn't just what was available, it was a calculated strategy. Barley, along with other grains like wheat, is a complex carbohydrate. Unlike a spoonful of sugar that gives you a quick spike and a hard crash, these grains break down slowly, delivering a steady stream of glucose into the bloodstream. This provided the long-lasting energy they needed to survive grueling training sessions and the brutal demands of the arena. This barley was rarely in the form of bread, but more often a thick porridge or a simple pudding. It was cheap, calorie-dense, and incredibly effective for their needs. When scientists analyzed the bones from a 2,000-year-old gladiator cemetery in Ephesus, modern-day Turkey, they confirmed a vegetable-rich diet. Isotopic analysis showed their diet was overwhelmingly plant-based, with barley and wheat as the cornerstones. This wasn't a poor man's diet, but a professional athlete's whose performance relied on these specific, calorie-dense grains. Okay, so if their diet was carb-focused, where did the protein come from? How did they build and repair the muscle needed to swing a sword or hold a shield for hours? The gladiator diet shows a different approach. Their primary protein source was just as humble as their carbs: legumes. Huge quantities of beans, lentils, and chickpeas were the other pillar of the gladiator's diet, providing them with the amino acids they needed for muscle repair. Galen, a famous Roman physician who worked at a gladiator school in Pergamum, wrote about their meals, specifically mentioning things like bean soup. The bone analysis from Ephesus backs this up, showing low nitrogen levels, a clear sign of minimal meat consumption. This highlights a key difference in athletic goals. Modern athletes often seek to bulk up, aiming for maximum muscle size. The gladiator diet suggests their goal was different. They needed functional strength and incredible stamina, not necessarily the physique of a modern bodybuilder. Their protein intake was sufficient for recovery and maintenance for their specific tasks. The gladiators' regimen, focused on barley and legumes, was simply what fueled them for their particular brand of athletic performance. This is where their diet gets particularly interesting. This high-carb, calorie-dense diet had an intentional side effect that was a clever survival tactic. The constant intake of grains like barley created a specific layer of subcutaneous fat. Today, leanness is often a primary goal in fitness, but for a gladiator, a little extra padding was a form of armor. Think about the weapons they faced, often designed to slash and cut. The point of the games wasn't always a quick, clean kill, it was entertainment. A long, bloody fight was a better show for the crowd. This layer of fat was a protective cushion. A shallow cut that might go straight to the muscle on a leaner fighter would only pierce the fat layer of a well-fed gladiator. That kind of wound would bleed a lot, creating a dramatic spectacle, but it wouldn't necessarily sever nerves or critical muscle tissue. It looked bad, but it was often a superficial wound they could fight through. An overly lean gladiator was far more vulnerable to a fight-ending injury from a minor cut. Therefore, carrying some extra body fat wasn't a sign of being out of shape, but a strategic advantage. It was a calculated part of their conditioning, designed to prolong the fight, enhance the spectacle, and ultimately increase their chances of walking out of the arena alive. Even with a diet designed for endurance and protection, the physical toll was immense. Their bones were under constant stress, and a diet high in grains can lack certain minerals, especially calcium. A broken bone could end a career or a life. So, the gladiators needed a way to fortify their skeletons and aid recovery. Their solution is one of the most unusual parts of their regimen: a post-fight recovery drink made from plant ash. Yes, you heard that right. Ancient sources, like Pliny the Elder, describe gladiators drinking a brew of charred wood or plant ash. For centuries, this was dismissed as a strange historical footnote. Then science provided an explanation. The analysis of the Ephesus bones revealed something astonishing. Compared to the average person buried there, the gladiators had dramatically higher levels of strontium and calcium in their bones. Researchers described the levels as exorbitant. This couldn't be explained by their diet of barley and beans alone. The most logical explanation was that they were consuming a potent mineral supplement. This ash tonic was, in effect, an ancient mineral supplement. By drinking the ash of burned plants, they were ingesting a concentrated dose of minerals the plants had drawn from the soil. This helped keep their bones strong and more resistant to fractures. It was a remarkably practical concept, identifying a potential dietary weakness and creating a targeted supplement to address it. So, how does this ancient diet, carb-heavy, plant-based, and boosted with ash, stack up against what top athletes eat today? The comparison is fascinating. A modern athlete's diet is often meticulously balanced, with an emphasis on specific protein-to-carb ratios for muscle growth. The gladiator's diet looks different, with far more carbohydrates and protein coming almost exclusively from plants. But when we stop comparing gladiators to bodybuilders and start comparing them to elite endurance athletes, their strategy makes a lot more sense. Think of the Tarahumara people of Mexico, famous for running ultra-marathons on a diet that is roughly 80% cornstarch, beans, and squash. Or look at elite Kenyan runners, whose diets often rely heavily on starches. Their approaches share a principle with the gladiators: high-carb fuel for maximum endurance. The gladiator wasn't built for a 100-meter sprint. He was built to survive a war of attrition. His diet reflects that perfectly. Foods like barley were well suited for their job. This suggests that large quantities of meat were not the priority for their specific performance needs. The ash drink was a unique solution for recovery that science validated 2 millennia later. They are a case study in how a diet designed for stamina could sustain some of the most formidable athletes in human history. So, the next time you see a gladiator in a movie tearing into a leg of meat, you'll know there's a different story. The titans of the arena weren't necessarily fueled by massive feasts of flesh, but by a sophisticated nutritional strategy designed for their unique circumstances. They were the Hordeari, the Barley Men, who understood that for them, endurance was everything. Their diet was a formula for survival: carb loading for energy, plant-based proteins for repair, fat for protection, and a mineral-rich ash tonic for recovery. It's a fascinating example of how ancient practices, when examined by modern science, can reveal unexpected solutions for fueling a champion. Which part of the gladiator diet surprised you most? The carb loading, the fat shield, or that ash recovery drink? Drop your thoughts below, then smash like and subscribe to History Hackers for more mind-blowing truths from the ancient world. Ring the bell so you never miss a battle-tested lesson in history and human performance.